Hello, fellow mapmakers. Welcome to another live mapmaking session with Campaign Cartographer and yours truly, Ralf Schermann of Profanity Software. Hope you're all doing fine. Hope my sound is good. All the signal is in the green and Sue is telling me it's fine. It's great. Thank you very much, Sue. So we're ready and set to do some more map making tonight. Hope you're all doing fine, enjoying the spring in the northern hemisphere. It's nice and sunny outside, still a bit fresh. What we could really do with some rain here in Germany. It's been too dry over the last few weeks, and it's set to bring some rain next week, so I'm looking forward to that. What do I have for you today? I do have the latest annual issue, that the April one came out last week, and last week unfortunately two work commitments didn't work with the live mapping session. We had to postpone that to this week, but here I am, and the annual issue is there, so that I can show it to you. It's a nice little, you can see the example map here up on the screen. Let me zoom in a little bit. As you can see, it's a nice little colorful style, reminiscent of some light app or computer games, which is why I named it the bubblegum fantasy style, like fun and in color, sweet and quickly used. So let's see how we can go about making a nice little map with it today. It's by a new contributor. We've made a bit of an experiment this time, just wanted to try it out, and went for a little look on Fiverr for map making artists and found Will here, who did the style for us. And let's see where they can find some more material that's a little bit different via such a route. Alright, so let's start off by creating a new map. I'm going to start the new map here. Oh, before I forget, of course, as always, if you have any questions during the session, if you want me to show something specific, do post it in the chat and I'll try to make that happen. Sue is going to relay anything that I missed to me. And if you like our channel, do give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. That helps make it more visible to other users. Okay, I don't need to save this version of the sample map, and from the map types I go to the overland maps, click next, and then I'm going to go for my look for my bubblegum fantasy style, and here it is. And I'm going to use the Imperial version style. It's not really That's a big difference, except from the labeling of the grid and the scale bar in these two versions of the map. That's one thing. Or I might actually talk a little bit of CC4, which we're working on at the moment, which I really would like to change in CC4. Not quite clear whether we can manage that, is to make the selection between the versions just a radio button or something, so we don't have an entry for every style in two versions here in the list. That would make it a lot easier to see stuff and to find stuff. Also, this whole thing is certainly going to be bigger in the next version. All right, so click next, and here's my where I set the size of my map. Let's make it nice and small with 250 by 200 miles. Nice regional map. And here I'm not going to put in the compass rose and stuff. I'm going to do that later at the end of the mapping session. So I'm just going to do finish. And then I'm going to save the map in my video session folder. There we are. And there's our blank map here on screen. See, with a nice just blue background style, black background color. It does the style does have its own colors palette with some more colorful and some popping colors to make it fit the bitmap symbols and its name, the bubblegum fantasy style. And we're going to start off by drawing the outline of our landmass by clicking the default landmass button up here. Just for the beginners, if you right click the style, you get different options, different ways to draw the landmass. The default style will be these smooth map style. So I'm thinking perhaps for something a little bit different from the usual example maps in this style. Let's do it a little bit differently. So I'm just going to click on undo here to remove that. And I'm going to right click the landmass style and I'm going to go with the fractal version instead of our smooth outline. That is the default for the style. And so we'll get more of the typical jagged coastline. And let's put in a bay here, another one here, go to the edge of the map, click on beyond the map at the corners, and there's our landmass. As you can see from the sheet effects, we have a pretty strong darker green glow to give the whole thing a bit of a gradient. And let's add a few islands along the edges. To make the coastline a little bit more interesting. As always, we can use the edit function of the drawing tool to adjust. Say if we wanted to make this bay a little bit longer, I can go in E for edit, click the point where my edit is supposed to start, and draw bay in there, right click to finish the editing part, and then just choose the ending point, refresh, and there's the new version of the coastline. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So I'm thinking we probably want a river running into here or something, so let's start with the river for a change. Let's go here, and as you can see, indicator of the pink rivers is already that we are using the color key effect for rivers. So I'm gonna grab the large river, just start off here in the bay somewhere, and draw a nice curvy river here going north till I reach my border, do a refresh, and as you can see, it does cut the land background there, so we can see the sea behind that. A nice little the dark glow of the water of the land does extend into the river and makes all the color transitions here very smooth and nice, which I like a lot. So I'm gonna do a little bit more, showing that off by adding a delta here for the river. So I'm just going to use the F9 key to put the river on the river line there, and for the ending I always go a little bit beyond the land edge. That way you can see, then I'm sure that the cutout version does go all the way to the coast. The refresh shows how that looks. Let's do another bit of river going this direction. And then I'm going to right click here and go for a few narrow channels like this, and another one here. And then again, I'm going to grab even smaller sections, F9, then all the way down here, same here. This way we get a nice complicated river delta. There we are. And we might even add a little bit of a lake along the river valley somewhere. So I'm gonna see here, and again I can use the fractal version of the lake. Well, let's do that matching our coastline, and let's just add a little bit of a lake at the top here. And there we've got the lake at the top edge of the map. Very nice, I like that. And let's take a look at adding some mountain ranges to the map. So I'm thinking of one coming down here. Well, I think I will leave that left side of the isle, the subcontinent here, for other stuff, and I'll add a mountain range here on this side of the river, on the right side of the river. Let's have a look. We do have mountain range symbols, mountain symbols. We've got volcanoes. We've got some bigger peaks. Peaks a little bit in different colors. So let's start off by putting the big mountains. Grab a peak, and let's put that here in the upper right edge of the map. Use the tab key to cycle through different ones. Go. I think I'll add the blue one here just in the top right corner. And then I'm going to grab the mountains. Well, actually, I could take the mountain range first. A bit of larger sections of the mountains here. And then I'm going to go down with the mountain symbols and build the mountain range a little bit narrower down this way. Leave a little bit of a gap here perhaps for a pass. Something like that, and then this further, and we'll finish off with a bit of a volcanic area here at the end of our mountain line. Let's grab an active volcano and an inactive one, and what we can also do, we can add a little bit of green mountains along the ridge just to merge a bit into hillside and stuff. We could do that. Let's give that a try, see what color we could, if we take a little bit of a lighter color, that's 102. Although we might want something that goes a little more into the yellow. So let's take that one. Grab the mountain symbol and see whether that looks okay. If we add those here, the edges, I think that works quite okay. So blending that a little bit more with the green background. And then grab some hill symbols here and add more of those. Build the foothills here. Can put these in here in the pass to show that it's not flat area. Here we go, and a few more in the south of the volcanoes. And once we're done with that, we'll do a little symbol sort to get them all in the correct order. Do it. And they should all now overlap correctly. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. What I want to do now is I want to add a little bit of a gray background to the gray mountains. So they're not on top of the greenish grass background. For that we'll take a look down there. Do I have them in here? Oh, that's the all symbols catalog here I'm actually working from. That's why I'm also putting the mountains on the vegetation catalog, which on the vegetation layer, which I did not want to do. I wanted to actually put them on the Minerals Mountains layer, but we can still easily change that by right-clicking the Change Properties button, Change Layer. This is all the symbols we have in the map so far. So by entity type, where's my symbol reference? Entity type, there it is. Okay, see that selects all the mountains. Press D for do it. And now we're going to put them on the Minerals Mountains layer. There we are. And we can now switch to the Minerals Mountains catalog. And that does have the gray mountains background in there as a shortcut to the drawing tool. This is basically, if you see these with a T up there in the upper right corner in the symbol catalog, these are references to drawing tools. So these are not actual symbols, but a shortcut to the drawing tools. You can reach the same drawing tool by clicking the terrain drawing tools, or right-clicking, or clicking the all drawing tools button. They are all listed there. The terrain mountains, that's the same as the one you see there in the symbol catalog. And I'm leaving a bit of a gap there outside. Or actually extending the terrain a little bit beyond the mountains, because it will have an edge fade effect. Also draw a little bit beyond the map border, so the edge fade effect from that side does not intrude into the map. And there you can see, if you zoom in a bit, that it does have quite a large edge fade effect. So the green and the gray merge into each other. I like that. It's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna... do I want to add some more hills? Or I could put a little bit more of the dark green background here. Yeah, for the foothills, that's a good idea. You will see that all of the terrain drawing tools go on their own sheets. So you can overlap them safely and still have an edge fade effect on all of the borders between these. I'm not quite sure which one's on top. I didn't see there. I think the gray one is on top. Yes, the gray style is on top, which is nice. Outline the hills here a little bit. And I'm thinking perhaps in this case, because it's so close to the gray, the dark green is a bit too dark. I might want it a bit lighter. I can of course change the color. Or what I can do is I can make it a little bit more transparent. So I can go into the terrain hills sheet, edit the sheet effect in there, and you see it has currently an inner opacity of 80%. So let's take that down to 60%, and then it's more transparent, and it will be in effect on top of the lighter green background appear a little bit lighter. Okay, so there's the cat. Say hi, Asa. Coming to check who I'm talking with. Come on. So let's people at least see your tail. There we are. All right. So it's looking pretty nicely. Now I just have to decide what I want to do with the other side of the map here on the other side of the river. Well, might be not the most geographically sensible stuff, but we could a bit of badlands or desert here on that side. So just to show off the symbols and the colors and stuff, because we've got some nice things there. So let's build a little bit of a desert area here in the lower left corner. Let's draw the desert outline. And we're going to trace the coastline here, starting at that point, going down this way. There we are. There's my desert coastline. And then a little bit of badlands to set it off here to the north. That's okay. And let's make it a little bit lighter green with a steppy terrain tool down here, and then trace this section of the coast. Oh, let's go from here up this way. Oh, now I did a mistake and accidentally traced the coastline the other way around. I think I forgot to just finish the trace at some point there. So let's undo this and do it again. Let's define default step here. Go zoom in a bit so we can see that actually better. Oh, it's a bit too far. I want to see more of that corner up there. Here we go. And now I'm going to do T for trace. Select the coastline somewhere I want my line to go along. And then the starting point. Follow coast to here. Overlap the desert edge. Trace again. Select a section of the coast I want to go along. Start point of the traced along up to here. And then this way. And let me see where, yeah, Giuseppe is nicely in the background. So that's good. And now we can add a few symbols here. Though I might perhaps want to change this here to a bit of also desert island, so it doesn't stand off as much from this. But this is going to be a bit tricky. Let's give that a try. What we can do if I just fill this with the desert tool, say with the desert terrain tool. Trace, start on the coastline, trace the coastline, go all the way around, right click the finish. So looks good from this point, but if I refresh now, you'll see that the desert color vanishes quite a lot. And that's because the edge fade effect is pretty strong and the island is small and it extends inward from all the edges of the island, the effect, and therefore it vanishes most of the desert island. It's okay, I think would work. We can also do it a little bit in a different way. We can change the color of the island. Let's see how that looks. If I do change color, select the island, press D for do it, and then select the edge of our desert with F2 to grab the same. It's just a little bit difficult with the edge fade effect. I had the edge of our desert, but I hit it. Still, the dark green background of the island is pretty strong and hides that stuff. But I think in a mix of the two things would probably look quite nice. So I'm going to redo the desert stuff here. Start on the coast with the F5 modifier, press T for tracing, a section away from my start point, go all the way around, right click to finish. Oh no, there, I think I overlapped this incorrectly, so let's zoom in and that will work better then. Desert tool, F5 to start on a point here. Trace, click here, start the trace at this point, go all the way around, left click, right click, and there's my desert. Yes, and I think the two combinations work nicely enough to show that the island is also quite barren. Yes, Asa is a cat, not a snake. That's very true. All right, but I do want to, without any symbols, the terrain fields don't really look very nice. They don't work on their own very much. They're there to serve as a background for the symbols. So I'm going to grab the symbols tool. You'll also notice that we have two kinds of different symbols. We have these flat ones that go on the symbols flat sheet. Basically, they are more like a bit of a fill type symbols, showing a bit of landscape, like these desert symbols. One down here. And then we do have the symbols that show more like features like a mountain, or here the mesa. and they go on the symbols sheet. So they will always be on top of the symbols flat sheet. There's not much in the way of sheet effects on these, but it does make sure that these flatter or symbols showing a landscape are always in the background. We don't only have the one Mesa symbol, but we also have this one, the flat one, and they combine very nicely, like this. And you can also always, if you want some more variety, because these are not very direction oriented, you can just mirror them, make it a bit smaller, and therefore that way we get a little bit of variation in the symbol. Also want to place the oasis. Gonna set this back to normal and put this here. We also have the single dune symbols here, which you can put in. And there's our desert and the Badlands. So next up, I want to add a little bit of forests. This should go up here more on the left upper corner of the map. And for that we're going to load up the vegetation catalog. And you'll see single symbols and also terrain tools to draw stuff in within area. So we've got these forest and woods tools. I'm going to grab the terrain forest tool and just outline the area I want my forest to go. And as you can see, it fills it with these pine forest trees. We can also do the same ones at these and the woods trees, and you can just grab these to add more in there, or a few more along the edges. Here we go, and we could also put them here on the island. Show wooded islands. Some more up here. These are the ones that the style uses for deeper forests, and these ones are the ones for woods. And again, I can outline the area here and place some of the symbols in there. Again, can grab the individual symbols from up here. These are just drawing tools that scatter these individual symbols across a certain area. And it's always good to mix those up a bit afterwards, put in individual pieces. And there we've got a big forest there. You can also go, of course, in here and add a few more forest symbols on this side. And you'll see that this style doesn't use a separate sheet for trees like many of the other styles do. That's because they are very similar in size to the existing mountain symbols and so on. And if I sort everything here, you'll see that they overlap nicely. An entity type symbol reference, press T for do it, and see they are nicely behind the mountain peaks and stuff. Only if you want to do something like say you wanted to put a tree on top of a hill here, or make it a bit smaller, just perhaps single out a tree for a special location, put it here on top of, say in here. And if I sort symbols in the map, this tree will be behind the hill because it's further up in the ordering of symbols, so the ordering system will automatically always place it behind the tree. If you wanted to have it here right on top of the hill, you can always do that by moving the symbol to a different sheet, and for that there's the symbols front sheet in here, And this will make sure it will always be in front of the other symbols. Okay, so much for that. Here I want to add a few more river symbols coming down from the mountains, I guess. Or actually at first I want to add a few more woods and tree symbols here to show a bit more vegetation. Oh, actually I just have to be careful. I'm in the scaling for the smaller tree I did there on purpose. I do want to set it back to normal for the other trees I'm placing. So let's put in some more trees here, and then some of the individual deciduous trees. There we are. But as I said, I also wanted to add some smaller rivers here. Always nice to have them start from behind the... the only problem you'll see now is that I'm running them through the terrain. So they'll be behind the mountain terrain there. But that's not so bad. It vanishes a little bit behind the gray there, but not in a bad way. There we are. And we can now turn to place. Well, actually, I do want to add a little bit of marshland symbols and stuff. We do have some swamp symbols. We do have some farmland symbols. So let's put a bit some of the marshland symbols here around the... Again, if we want to a little bit more variety, we can mirror the symbols. Here we go. Set them back to normal. There we are. And I do believe we do have a little bit of terrain fill for swamp. So I'm going to put this around the river here. Now, because we have a cut-out version of the rivers, you can't just draw the terrain to above the rivers, because that will just then hide the rivers. Let's do it this way and draw it a little bit around the delta and just put in some little blobs of the swamp fill here in the center. There we are. There's our swampy, marshy river delta. And let's put a little bit of farmland down here. Yeah. And I guess one thing I'm missing here is a bit more of an offset of the ocean. It's a bit flat blue here for me, so I'm gonna go in there, take a look at the contours, and I've got some darker sea contours here, so I can just grab that and just draw this here along the edges. And then a little bit beyond the border here. And this will just darken the sea area here along the southern edge of the map. Good, fine with that. Now let's go to the structures. Excuse me, getting perhaps a little bit too close to the camera. It's the problem with having just a limited section of the screen for casting. I tend to be a little bit too far zoomed out. So let's get a little bit closer at least, so I can see a little bit more. So we do have some nice colorful symbols here. So let's put down a city to start with. So I'm guessing we've got a city here in the fertile area along the bay, down here. Then we also have a modern city, which was a bit of an, yeah, basically we made use of a symbol that we decided was not fitting for the fantasy style, and then did the other city symbol instead. But then the modern city symbol was too nice to not include, so we also threw that in to the style, and it's might not match your fantasy style. If you're doing something more modern, it might be nice to have. And there we go. Let's add a town here along the edge of the lake, and perhaps a couple more. One down here, and then one up here, and then some villages. Here we go. Village here. Oh no, then some hamlets. One here. I wanted to put one here on the island. Also good to have someone here on this island over here. And going back to the town to put one on the other side of the bay. Then we have this nice bridge symbol. See that, need to mirror that to go across the river in this direction here. And we've got some castles and strongholds. So this is actually, let's put that together with the city to make show that. I'm going to put it on top first. I'm going to order them in a moment. Got a nice stronghold here. It's perhaps good to place here at the edge of the desert. And a tower, probably a lighthouse or something, shining the light at the start of the bay. Ruin symbol. I'm going to put this here on the desert island. Another larger ruin symbol, which I think I'm going to put up here in the mountains. And then some drawing tools for roads. So let's sort our symbols first. Symbols, sort symbols at map, all of them. And see the castle here is now again nicely behind the city. And we can connect settlements a little bit with roads. So let's start off here from the town on top, going down all the way towards our city. Let's go through the forest here, skirt the edge of the swamp, down here, across the farmland, all the way to the city. I like to finish my roads at the important points like here, the city. That way I can use the measuring functions of Campaign Cartographer to measure the actual length of that road from the city to somewhere else. So I'm going to, drawing the road further, I'm going to start a new section. So I'm going to use F9. No, not F9. I want to use F5, the endpoint, to start the road at the very end of the previous road, and then go from there towards the tower here. And with F9 to the stronghold. Then I want to do a side path. Oh, actually, perhaps I could use the path tool instead of the road one, showing that it's not quite an important road towards this town here. Also, I want to start at the end of this road here and do the road down this way, skirting this edge of the swamp, and then going down south towards this town, ending the path here to make it a natural measuring point. Start a new section. Go through the mountains here and add up at that town. And then I'm also gonna do a line here through the pass to this village. And here I hit the endpoint, the F9 modifier. I wanted to put the road on this, the north-south road, but I hit instead was the edge of my swamp. Obviously, that's why this extends beyond here. I can always use the node edit tool, select that node, and move that to there. I'm also going to use the track tool to do a few more tracks to the more outlying places on the map, from here towards that hamlet, and from here to this cape here, from where perhaps you can take a boat over to that settlement. And that's about it. Like it. Ruined mode suggestion for ruined modern cities. Okay, yes, I see that for post-apocalyptic setting or something like, or some. There's quite a few fantasy worlds where basically the fantasy world is built upon the ruins of a modern civilization. Basically, sometimes the lost technology taking the place of magic. That would be nice. Something to keep in mind. Okay. And now it's anything forgotten really. I don't want any borders on this map. We've got some stuff to do, a little bit of texture or a little bit of stuff into the sea, but not much. I don't really need this on this map. So I think I'm pretty good. And I would start labeling the map now. And for that, I'm going to choose the color of the text and the layer. I want that to go on. And then I'm going to put in the labels for the most important things first. I think one of the central points here is the city, the only city on the map. Yeah. And let's see, the font we are using is the one that's comes with this annual, and that's the Bangers font, right? It's a nice, fun, all caps, comics style, which I thought fit the theme of the map quite nicely. But of course, you can use anything else if you don't like it or would prefer something else. So how do we... Bubblegum City is perhaps a little bit too on the nose. This thing that comes into my mind about the city name. Let's... a bit of a blank here. Normally I don't have much trouble coming with names, but any suggestions from the chat? It's Azaz Playground, okay. Let's call it Azaz City. I think that's... Go. That's a bit small for major label here, perhaps on that, so I'm going to do this, change it to the size I want first, or the rough size, then gonna bottom center for the, it's already there for the insertion point for the text, so I'm gonna put it here on top. There we go. Now I want to double check how large that is, so I can use that as a reference for other text I put in, so I'm going to use extract properties, click on the bottom line of the text and have a look. and so it's 4.489 and something. What I tend to do, and this is just being me, it's really not necessary at all to set this to a fairly round number. I can remember them better, so I'm going to use change this to size 5, and then use extract properties again to set the default text size to that. So I know now that my major labels are size 5, and I can adjust my other stuff. So let's say I wanted to label other cities which are not, and towns which are not quite as important. So I'm just gonna make the text appropriately smaller, just make it size 4. So Blackjack as a town name is what I'm seeing here. Pirate City, so this could be quite well be a pirate town here, a little bit off from the main bay and not so easily reachable by any one's chasing the pirates. So I'm gonna do this in here, and if you're going with the gum brains, juicy fruit and Wrigley, yeah, that might be nice. So so why not call this Haribo? Top left, no, top right as the insertion point. Okay, and then we do need something for this. So what do we have? And then so juicy town. Let's put that here. And then we've got one more town here, and that can be Wrigley. There we are. And then you know I'm might be getting into German fruit brands that nobody else can. So, I mean, Haribo is obviously a German one, but I think that is pretty well known and common in the States as well. I don't know whether Katja's is a known brand in the States. Let's put that in there. Okay. I've got one more village here, so actually one more down there, and I have an idea for that. So that's gonna be Fisherman's Den for the fisherman's friends. Brand. Hubba Bubba. Let's call this Hubba Bub. Down there. Castle Gum. Chiclet. Chiclet is a brand I've never heard. Is that something American or British? I'll put it on the map. No problem. There we go. And we've got one more little hamlet there, and another one up here. So what else do we got? Gumbear. salt fish. We have some kind of licorice gum here, which is called salty fish or something like that, or salty herring actually. So it's called saltfish. Though that's actually Haribo, I think. Okay, so I've got all the settlements labeled. So, and let's call it the Bay of Sweet Delights. Mid-center, so this should fit in here nicely. It needs to be a little bit larger again, and I might actually put this on the text no outline sheet. So because I'm gonna make it blue, so it's nice. It's offset, fits the sea color there. So I'm gonna change color. Oops, change color. Select the text and make this a dark blue. And now we can put in compass rose and stuff. So let's click the cartouche or the all symbol catalog settings button up here and load the cartouches. And we do have a few different compass roses, one with the letters, one without the letters. Let's grab the letters here. Make it a little bit larger perhaps. Oh, perhaps not. Oh, I think it fits better without the letters in here. That way I can put it nicely here into the space. Can always put in a letter by text and such. And the scale bar, the 100 mile scale bar. Now it has to set it to normal, so I know this will be 25 miles, but that's a bit short. So let's make it 0.5 for 50 miles. Might even be a little bit lower for the full 100 miles, or I could put in 75 miles. Let's do a 75 miles scale bar. And this goes here in the lower left corner, and we put in 75 by hand. And there's our scale in miles. And we are almost finished. We do need a bit of a map title. Let's put it in here to start. And how we're going to call the map? The Gummy Coast. Let's call it the Gummy Coast. Ooh, that was a bit large. I did accidentally scale it, obviously. So I'm just gonna select that and move it and scale it by holding down Control, refresh, and put that here up in the upper left corner. It's still a bit too large and fat for my taste, so I'm still gonna make it a little bit smaller. There we are. And we can also put in a little copyright notice here. Copyright by Shevan. There we go. Oops, that is far too large. It should be unobtrusive. There we are. And that's our map. And we are done with a nice little colorful fun map that would work as well as a little illustration for a story or comic or something. And that's the, whimsical. That's the correct word for what I would use for the style. Quaint and whimsical and just fun to remember. It reminds me a bit of my own old comic fantasy style, which just uses vector symbols which was kind of a similar idea. And so I quite like it. And we are close to the end of the hour, so I think I will call it a day or a video at this point. And thanks for watching. Thanks for following along. Thanks for your naming suggestions. And as Sue says in the chat, if you liked the show, please leave us a like and a subscribe. And hopefully see you again next week. Until then, happy mapping and have a good time. Bye-bye.